At 0600 hours local time, beneath the frozen surface of the Kupiansk outskirts, the ground itself began to breathe. A Russian infantry squad, moving in absolute darkness, navigated the narrow diameter of an abandoned gas pipeline. They were part of a high-risk subterranean infiltration strategy designed to bypass the primary Ukrainian defensive belts that had turned the surface into a graveyard of armored vehicles. For weeks, these pipelines had functioned as a blind spot in the Ukrainian tactical grid, allowing small assault groups to move silently beneath the reach of thermal imaging and loitering munitions. The mission was a gamble on structural geometry, betting that the industrial infrastructure could act as a shielded corridor into the city's heart. However, what the mission planners had not accounted for was the inherent vulnerability of an exit point that had already been mapped by Ukrainian reconnaissance teams. As the first Russian soldier reached for the heavy metal hatch leading to the surface, he was completely unaware that his movements had been tracked by seismic sensors and high-resolution optics for the last 12 minutes. The hatch shifted open, and the silence of the tree line was instantly replaced by the high-pitched whine of an approaching rotor. The Ukrainian reconnaissance drone, loitering at an altitude of 400 meters, had locked onto the heat signature of the rising squad the moment they breached the surface. The fire order was transmitted in milliseconds. Before the lead Russian soldier could even deploy his weapon, a pre-registered mortar battery south of the city unleashed a salvo. The shells impacted with surgical precision, bracketing the pipe exit and turning the narrow egress point into a lethal kill zone. Shrapnel tore through the light gear of the infantry as they struggled to scramble out of the pipe. The entire engagement lasted less than 45 seconds. As the survivors attempted to retreat back into the subterranean darkness, a pair of first-person view drones arrived to finish the task. One munition detonated directly inside the pipe entrance, causing a secondary blast that collapsed the immediate tunnel section. The first attempt at a breakthrough had been deleted before it could even transition from infiltration to assault. And despite the initial failure, the pipeline network continued to produce infantry at staggered intervals, forcing the Ukrainian command to adjust its defensive posture. The Russian strategy shifted toward spreading uncertainty across the entire grid. By surfacing in isolated pockets near abandoned warehouses and utility sectors, these units forced the defenders to spread their surveillance thin. Thermal drones began picking up movement in sectors that were previously considered secure, and logistics vehicles moving through the Uvalani district started taking sporadic fire from positions that theoretically did not exist. This was the psychological payoff of the pipe operation. Even if the numbers were too small for a conventional breakthrough, the constant threat of an ambush from the rear disrupted the flow of supplies and forced the reallocation of rapid response units. It was a tactical shell game, where every empty building and basement now had to be treated as a potential enemy hardpoint. The tactical friction reached a breaking point in the southern districts, where Russian infantry had successfully occupied a damaged apartment block after filming themselves outside the structure to signal a local victory. This move, intended for psychological warfare, provided the exact coordinates needed for a counterstrike. Ukrainian drone operators tracked the metadata of the signal and located the precise room the squad had entered. Within seconds, a first-person view drone was launched from a concealed position nearby. The footage showed the drone tracking through a shattered fourth-floor window frame before the screen went to static. A massive explosion blew out the facade of the building, sending concrete dust and insulation drifting into the street. As the dazed survivors stumbled toward the exit, a second drone was already descending from the clouds. The street went quiet again, leaving only the sound of burning debris. This pattern of rapid identification and immediate kinetic response was becoming the standard metric for urban survival in Kupiansk. As the focus shifted toward the southern outskirts, the counter-operation transitioned into a systematic house-to-house clearing phase. Ukrainian infantry elements from the 2nd Battalion advanced using a search-and-strike protocol that prioritized safety over speed. In one instance, a reconnaissance drone identified a building where Russian troops had established a fortified firing position behind thick interior walls. Instead of rushing the entrance and risking high casualties, the assault group established a perimeter and utilized the dense foliage of the nearby tree lines for concealment. They pinned the exits with suppressive machine gun fire, forcing the defenders to stay deep within the structure. Rather than engaging in a direct firefight, the squad leader passed the exact GPS coordinates back to a loitering drone team. The audible hum of rotary blades soon filled the air as 2 munitions were dropped directly onto the structural hardpoints. Resulting detonations collapsed the upper floor onto the basement, neutralizing the threat without a single Ukrainian soldier entering the building until the dust had settled. This tactical evolution moved to the streets where armor began to play a decisive role in breaking long-standing stalemates. 2 Ukrainian main battle tanks rolled into direct line of sight of a cluster of entrenched positions inside a residential block. The tanks operated with a level of aggression that left the defenders with no room for error. The main guns were leveled at the ground floors of the structures, firing point-blank high-explosive shells that shattered the load-bearing masonry. After only 3 rounds, several Russian soldiers emerged from the ruins waving white cloth markers, realizing that their defensive geometry had been completely invalidated by the heavy-caliber fire. While the surface battle was being won through superior firepower, the intelligence staff confirmed that the subterranean infiltration through the pipeline network was still active. It became clear that the only way to secure the city was to kill the pipes themselves, turning the underground advantage into a watery tomb. To sever the Russian supply lines once and for all, Ukrainian engineers and drone operators transitioned to structural targeting of the industrial infrastructure. They launched a series of high-precision strikes on the exposed access sections of the gas pipelines. First-person view drones were flown vertically down into the ventilation shafts and maintenance openings, carrying heavy explosive payloads designed to trigger structural failure. When these munitions detonated, they ruptured the pipe walls in areas that crossed beneath local waterways. The physics of the river took over immediately. Water poured into the lower sections of the network, flooding miles of the infiltration corridor with thousands of gallons of freezing liquid. The subterranean route became a physical dead end, trapping any remaining units inside the city and cutting them off from ammunition and casualty evacuation. The underground threat had been neutralized by the very environment the Russians had tried to weaponize. The isolation of the Russian units scattered within the city limits allowed for the beginning of full-scale urban clearing operations. Without a connection to the rear, the defenders in the Invalidated district found themselves barricaded inside high-rise buildings, unable to coordinate a cohesive defense. Skala Regiment was committed to this sector with orders to clear the high-rises one floor at a time. Before the infantry moved, drone teams saturated the district with a blanket of surveillance, monitoring every rooftop and alleyway for movement. Any soldier who attempted to cross between buildings was met with instant mortar fire or a precision drone strike. The Russian defenders were forced to retreat into reinforced basements, turning the structures into vertical fortresses. However, this strategy only played into the Ukrainian preference for structural demolition. The infantry refused to rush the stairwells, opting instead to treat the buildings as individual engineering problems to be solved with high explosives. As the clearing operation progressed, the Russian resistance became increasingly concentrated in the larger industrial and residential complexes that offered deeper basement protection. One 10-story residential tower was identified as a primary strongpoint, housing multiple sniper nests and machine gun teams that overlooked a critical intersection. The Ukrainian assault elements reached the ground floor under a heavy curtain of covering fire but made no attempt to climb the stairs. Instead, engineers from the 2nd Battalion moved in with 3 sets of 4 TM62 anti-tank mines. They wired the charges in a series against the central load-bearing pillars of the structure, while remaining in total radio silence to avoid detection by Russian electronic warfare units. Once the team extracted to a safe distance, the remote detonator was triggered. The massive building folded vertically into its own footprint, turning a formidable defensive position into a pile of pulverized concrete and rebar. This tactical philosophy of structural negation was applied next to the high-rises in the Invalidated district, where the Skala Regiment faced saboteurs barricaded in reinforced sublevels. These basements had been improved with thick timber and sandbags, making them nearly immune to standard artillery impacts. The Ukrainian infantry utilized armored vehicles to provide a wall of steel between themselves and the Russian portholes while they approached the foundation vents. High-velocity explosive charges were pushed into the ventilation shafts, designed to create a pressure wave that would travel through the confined underground spaces. The physics of the blast in a closed environment proved more effective than any direct assault. Following the pressure wave, the surviving defenders, suffering from severe concussions and internal trauma, began to emerge from the rubble with their hands raised. The Skala Regiment processed 30 prisoners in a single afternoon using this method. The final pocket of organized Russian resistance centered on the central hospital complex, a sprawling series of concrete buildings that had been turned into a fortress. This position was the most difficult to neutralize because it dominated the surrounding access roads with clear sight lines and thermal optics. For 5 days, the defenders inside the hospital held their ground, utilizing the thick walls to shield themselves from mortars and small arms fire. The siege was absolute. Ukrainian snipers locked down every courtyard and window, ensuring that no supplies or water reached the Russian garrison. By the fifth day, intercepted radio traffic revealed a desperate situation inside. The soldiers were melting snow for water and had exhausted their medical supplies. Still, the command refused to surrender, hoping for a relief force that was never going to arrive through the flooded pipelines. With the stalemate threatening to drag on, the Ukrainian command authorized an escalation in firepower to dissolve the hospital stronghold. Before the final strike, drone teams mapped every remaining heat signature within the ruins to ensure no movement was unaccounted for. Then the heavy artillery moved from area suppression to precision demolition. Large-caliber shells were walked across the rooftops, systematically collapsing the upper floors to expose the interior rooms. Aviation elements were cleared for a high-intensity strike, dropping heavy munitions that cracked the primary foundation of the main wing. The hospital complex, once a symbol of medical care, was reduced to a smoking skeleton of twisted metal and ash. FPV drones performed the final sweep, diving into the remaining basement entrances to eliminate any holdouts. The last organized firing point in the central district was silenced by 1900 hours. In the aftermath of the hospital's collapse, the remaining Russian units scattered throughout the city center began to lose all cohesion. Without a central command post or functioning communication relays, these small groups were left to make their own tactical decisions in an environment that had become entirely hostile. Drone feeds from the central square showed abandoned firing positions where soldiers had simply walked away, leaving their heavy weapons behind. Some tried to move through the ruins under the cover of smoke, but the constant presence of overhead loitering munitions made any movement above ground a death sentence. The tactical map of Kupiansk, which had been a mosaic of contested zones only 48 hours prior, was now rapidly turning a solid shade of blue as the clearing teams reached the city's heart without taking return fire. The cost of the operation was written in the wreckage that lined every major thoroughfare. Damaged armored vehicles, some dating back to the initial months of the failed Russian spring offensive, sat beside the fresh ruins of the apartment blocks destroyed during the pipeline counter-operation. Ukrainian engineers began the tedious task of checking every meter of the road for pressure plate mines and unexploded ordnance. The air was thick with the smell of burning insulation and wet concrete dust, a signature of high-intensity urban combat. Despite the silence, the drone teams did not lower their guard, continuing to circle the city in overlapping patterns. They were searching for the faint electronic whispers of hidden transmitters or the thermal spikes of soldiers still hiding deep within the remaining subterranean utility tunnels. By the following morning, the industrial outskirts and the central districts were fully under Ukrainian control. The primary supply artery through Uvalini was reopened to logistical traffic, allowing fresh ammunition and food to reach the forward-leaning units. The tactical genius of the defense had not been in a single heroic stand, but in a series of calculated engineering decisions that prioritized the preservation of infantry through the use of technology and structural demolition. The Russian plan to use the gas pipelines as a secret highway had been turned against them, resulting in a catastrophic loss of personnel and prestige. The city that was supposed to be a gateway for a Russian breakthrough had instead become a sieve that drained their regional combat effectiveness to the point of exhaustion. As the sun rose over the shattered skyline, the scale of the defeat became visible from the high-altitude surveillance feeds. The once vaunted Russian assault groups had been reduced to scattered survivors trying to navigate a landscape where every building was a potential trap, and every street was a pre-registered kill zone. The total monetary value of the equipment destroyed in the Kupiansk sector was estimated to exceed $850 million, including advanced electronic warfare suites and mobile air defense systems. More importantly, the psychological impact of losing a fortified urban center to a series of drone-led demolition strikes sent ripples through the Russian regional command. The defensive grid had held, and the counter-operation had been a masterclass in modern asymmetric urban warfare, proving that no amount of subterranean infiltration could overcome a digitally integrated defense. Beneath the streets, the gas pipelines were no longer a source of hope for the invaders, but a reminder of the thousands of gallons of river water that now filled the corridors. The final payoff of the Kupiansk defense was not just the liberation of the streets, but the total invalidation of the Russian subterranean strategy. The city stood as a testament to the fact that when math and physics are applied correctly to the battlefield, even the most elaborate infiltration plans can be collapsed into rubble. As the smoke cleared and the fires in the hospital complex finally burned out, the last thermal signatures disappeared from the Ukrainian monitors. The sector was secure, and the living hell that Kupiansk had become for the Russian military was finally quiet. The operation was over, and the map was clear.